Greetings, shooters and reloaders. So now we're going to talk about bullet seating. So we have our cases cleaned, resized, trimmed, reprimed, and now they're ready to load. And the powder is in. We did that in the last segment. So now we're going to talk about bullet seating. So you take the seeder die from your die set. It's simple. It consists of the die body, and this part here is called the seating stem. And what you do is this part determines your bullet depth that you seat the bullet to. This part of the die, you can actually put a crimp on the cartridge depending on how far down you set it. I'm going to show you how to set that up. So you set that into your press. Now I have it pretty close from the last time I was loading 3006, so it should be fairly close here. We'll see. So we screw that in. I like to screw the seating stem down pretty far because I'm not going to crimp to right now. So then we're going to take a charged cartridge and we're going to take a bullet. Now the bullets I'm using for this is 30 caliber, 308 diameter, 168 grain, 308 diameter, boat tail hollow point national match. So what I'm going to do then is put the cartridge on, put a bullet, set a bullet on there, run it up. Now I'm not going to go all the way. I'm going to check it. So I already have my calipers set for my seating depth. Let me look on here. Let's see what it is. The bullet seating depth from my notes from the last time is 3.223. So that's what I set my calipers to. So let's check it. So close, but not quite. So we're going to go a little bit more. Almost. There. So now we have the correct bullet depth. All right. So now we want to set the crimp. Now normally I like to crimp in a separate operation, but I'm going to show you how to do it this way first, and then I'll cover crimping in another segment. So now that we've got our bullet depth set, now we're going to back the seating stem out, loosen the die body, and you want that seating stem up quite a ways because we don't want it to engage the bullet now. So now we're going to put the cartridge back in. Okay, so now the cartridge is not touching anything inside the die. So now we're going to screw the die body down until we feel it touch the cartridge. Well, getting hung up here. There, now I feel it touch the cartridge mouth, but the seating stem is not touching the bullet, and that's what you want. All right, so now I'm going to put the ram down. I'm going to screw this down maybe just a quarter of a turn, maybe. Maybe a touch more. That was too much. That was too much. So what I did there was I crinkled the shoulder. And this is why I don't like crimping with the bullet seating die body. I like doing it in a separate step. So that was too much. And that's what happens if you try to put, if you don't get the crimp set just right, it'll do that. The shoulder is kind of crinkled there a little bit. So I'm going to have to pull the bullet on that, resize it, and start over with that one. So let's try another one. I think what I'm going to do is maybe I'll just show you how to use the factory crimp die to begin with. So let's set another one. So I already have a bullet here, or a cartridge loaded. So here's an easy way to do it. I can take this cartridge, put it in there, run the seating stem all the way down, run the cartridge, the die body down till it touches. All right, now that's set to the exact what I had on the previous load. So now I'm going to take another one, put a bullet on, check our depth. Perfect. Okay. So now that didn't put a crimp on, and I'm not going to crimp off the die body like that. Even though it's capable of doing it, it's real touchy. You have to get it just right, and if you do too much, you crinkle that shoulder, and then because 3006 headspace is on the shoulder, it's kind of critical. It has to be just right. So that's why I don't like crimping with the seating die for that reason. I have a separate die for that. I'll show you that in a minute. So now we have our depth set. We lock this in place, and let's do one more. There we go. Okay, so there's two of them done. So now I'm going to show you how I like to crimp. So we're going to take this out. Some people, that's all they use is this for crimping. They get it set up just right, and then they lock it in place and leave it. And then they don't have to worry about it again. But all right, so this is a factory crimp die. It's made by Lee Precision. I really like these. These do a much better job of crimping, much safer. You're not going to crinkle the shoulder. So you run this down a little ways, put that in, and then I run this down until I feel it engage. There, so I felt it engage. So now, lift up on here, turn it maybe half a turn. Might be too much. There we go. All right, there. So that put a crimp on, but it never touched the shoulder. So that's why I like crimping using the Lee factory crimp die. It's much safer. So now we have a nice, not too heavy of a crimp, but just enough. And why is a crimp important? Well, if you're shooting a semi-automatic where that cartridge is, being pushed forward pretty hard, it's possible the bullet could hit the feed ramp and push the bullet back in farther, or the force of it going forward, the inertia, the bullet could move forward. So in a semi-automatic, it's really a good idea to have a crimp on it. It's not always necessary. It's not necessary like in a bolt action. You could get by without crimping, but in a semi-automatic, I think it's always best to crimp. So I hope that explains bullet seating and crimping. I'm going to go into some of these aspects in depth a little bit in some of the next videos. I'm going to cover topics like bullet coefficient and sectional density and that sort of thing. But for right now, you have the basic steps of reloading, and that's really all there is to it. It's not complicated, it's not hard. You just have to follow the basic steps that I showed you. And there's a lot of other points that I'll cover, but we'll get around to those. So until then, shoot straight, keep your powder dry, and we'll see you on the range.